Welcome. This is an executive briefing on what we're calling the supply chain Trojan, a critical shift in how we must now think about corporate liability. So let's get straight to the point. The core intelligence is this. That risk you thought you had with your third-party suppliers, it's not at arm's length anymore. From a governance and liability standpoint, it's now your problem. It's on your books. And look, this isn't just a theoretical exercise. We have the data. Proofpoint found that in 2023, a staggering 92% of organizations right here in the UAE reported at least one successful phishing attack. So the threat is very real and it's happening right now. Okay, so how is this happening? Let's break down the actual mechanism. We call it the operational bypass, and it's specifically designed to get around the standard defenses most companies rely on. You see, the game has changed. Traditional phishing, that was all about stealing your password. But these modern attacks, things like Adversary-in-the-Middle or consent phishing, they don't even bother with the password. They go straight for the session token itself. And once they have that, they get direct, authenticated access. And here's the concerning part. The process is deceptively simple. Your employee gets a link, they click it, and it takes them to what looks like a perfectly legitimate consent screen, from a provider they trust. They click accept to grant permissions, and that's it. The attacker is in with persistent access. And notice, no password was ever typed in or stolen. Now, this brings us to the question that I know is on your mind. It's the one most boards believe they've already solved. Wait, don't we have multi-factor authentication for this exact reason? Isn't that supposed to be enough? Well, the answer, unfortunately, is no. And the reason why is subtle but absolutely critical. The attack doesn't break MFA's math. It just sidesteps it. It's operationally bypassed. Think about it. The user authenticates correctly, MFA and all. It's after that successful login that the session token is stolen. At that point, your MFA defense has already been made completely irrelevant. Okay, so we've covered the how. Now let's connect this technical vulnerability to what it really means for you, the direct legal and financial exposure you face, specifically under the UAE's framework. The legal framework here is unambiguous. It establishes clear joint responsibility. If you look at Article 8 of the UAE's Personal Data Protection Law, it's right there in black and white. If your supplier engages another party and a breach happens down the line, well, you're deemed jointly responsible, period.
And it doesn't stop at civil penalties. Article 66 of the Crimes and Penalties Law takes it a step further. It states that the legal person, that means the corporation itself, can be held criminally liable for crimes committed by its agents or its suppliers.
And what does that criminal liability mean in practice? It means a potential fine of up to 5 million dirhams. That's a very significant, very quantifiable risk that is tied directly to how secure your supply chain really is. So faced with this new landscape, the old ways of thinking just won't cut it. This requires a fundamental shift in your strategy. Really, the only viable response is to adopt a zero-trust mandate. So what do we mean by zero trust? The core principle is actually quite simple, but it has to be absolute. Never trust, always verify. It means you treat every single user, every device, every transaction, doesn't matter if it's internal or external, as potentially hostile until you have proven its legitimacy. This is where the AELION protocol puts that principle into practice. It's all about a verification-first posture. So what does that look like? First, you verify the legal entity and the actual human behind the request. Next, you treat those unsolicited consent pop-ups, the ones from Google or Microsoft that use OAuth, you treat them as hostile by default until they're verified. Then you apply separate, layered controls for identity, email, and applications. And crucially, you reject the whole idea of inherited trust. Just because a request looks plausible doesn't make it legitimate. Only verification does.
Look, the paradigm has well and truly shifted. The old model of trust then verify is obsolete. It's simply too dangerous. The new standard for executive-level oversight has to be a governance model built on one thing: verification first.